You've been told to be gentle, to stay quiet, to please everyone, but that softness they praised was the very thing that kept you small. Today that ends, it's time to become unshakable, a woman of steel. All your life, they have taught you to smile when it hurts, to stay calm when you are burning inside, to forgive when they break you again and again. They told you that being soft is the mark of a good woman. They never told you that it is also the reason you keep losing pieces of yourself. They made you believe that being strong is wrong, that raising your voice means being rude, that standing up for yourself makes you difficult. But the truth is, this world respects strength, not silence. There comes a point when you look around and realize that your kindness has been mistaken for weakness, that your softness has become an open invitation for others to walk over you, that your care has turned into a cage that traps your spirit. You start to see that no one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to hand you your worth. You have to claim it. You have to build it. And when you do, the same people who used to overlook you will start to fear losing you. It is about learning that strength is not built by rejecting your emotions, but by mastering them. You are not supposed to destroy your softness, you are supposed to use it wisely. There is beauty in compassion, but only when it is not costing you your peace. There is grace in patience, but only when it is not feeding your pain. You see, life will not reward you for being the most understanding woman in the room. It rewards those who know when to stop explaining and start walking. You cannot heal in the same place that broke you. You cannot rise while begging to be seen. You cannot find peace if your heart is still chained to people who only love you when you are easy to control. The woman you are becoming is not defined by the things you have lost, but by what you have learned. Every time you were ignored, you learned to listen to yourself. Every time you were betrayed, you learned to trust your own instincts. Every time you were told you were too emotional, too strong, too much, you learned that their limits have nothing to do with your power. Human psychology teaches us that people repeat the roles they are given. If they label you soft, you start living small. If they call you weak, you start doubting your own strength. But here is the truth that can set you free. You are not who they say you are who you choose to become. The mind follows what it believes. Change your beliefs and your reality bends with it. Your softness was never the problem. The problem was giving it to those who did not deserve it. There is nothing wrong with having a kind heart as long as your kindness has boundaries. Every woman who has ever risen from her pain has faced this moment of clarity. The moment when she stopped saying yes out of fear and started saying no out of power. That is the moment her life began to change. You will feel resistance when you start this transformation. The people who benefited from your softness will call you heartless. They will say you have changed. Let them, because you have. You are no longer living to be liked. You are learning to be respected. You are no longer trying to fit into a mold that was never made for you. You are breaking it. There is something unstoppable about a woman who knows her worth. She no longer begs, she no longer chases, she no longer explains. She simply stands tall and allows her energy to speak. Her silence becomes her power, her discipline becomes her weapon, and her peace becomes her crown. That is the woman of steel. She bends, but she does not break. She feels, but she does not fall apart. She loves, but she does not lose herself. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to awaken that woman within you, the woman who no longer hides her strength. The woman who transforms her pain into power. The woman who walks through life calm, confident, and unshakable. Because the reward waiting for you at the end is not just inspiration, it is transformation. It is the moment you stop living as who they told you to be and start living as who you truly are. So listen closely, because this is where your journey begins. The world may have taught you to be soft, but life is about to teach you something greater. You can still be kind and yet unstoppable. You can still be gentle and yet powerful. You can still be soft and still be made of steel. There comes a day when silence feels heavier than the words you never said, when pretending to be fine becomes harder and facing the truth. That is the breaking point. It is the moment when you realize that you have been shrinking yourself just to make others comfortable. You have been holding your tongue just to keep the peace. You have been carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations while your own soul quietly fades. Every woman reaches this point in her own way. Sometimes it comes through heartbreak, sometimes through betrayal. Sometimes it comes when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize the person staring back. That moment of pain is not your end. It is your awakening. Point is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to strip away everything false, so only the truth remains. The truth that you have been strong all along. The truth that you do not need permission to change. The truth that the same heart that once broke from being too soft can rebuild itself into something unstoppable. Psychology calls this the turning point of identity. When a human being finally stops seeking safety in others and begins building strength from within, it is a shift from survival to power, from reaction to control. You may cry, you may doubt, you may even wish to return to the comfort of the old you, but that version no longer fits. The pain you feel now is not weakness, it is growth. The breaking point is where transformation begins. It is where the woman who was once afraid to lose people finally realizes she was losing herself all along. And from that realization, something extraordinary starts to rise. A new voice inside that whispers enough pretending, enough pleasing, enough being small. That voice is your power returning home. It is the birth of the woman who will no longer be defined by softness alone, but by the strength that was hidden beneath it all. When the breaking point passes, something inside you begins to shift. You start to see through the lies you once believed. You realize that strength is not about building walls. It is about standing tall even when you feel exposed. It is not about shutting people out. It is about refusing to let them break what they did not build. This is the moment of awakening when the fog begins to clear and the truth of who you are starts to emerge. You begin to understand that being strong does not mean you stop caring. It means you care differently. You stop pouring yourself into people who only take. You stop saying yes when your soul is screaming no. You stop chasing love that costs your peace. This awareness hits deep because you finally see that your softness was never wrong, it was just misplaced. You gave it to those who didn't value it. Now it's time to give it to yourself. The awakening teaches you that the world does not shape you, you shape how the world treats you. Every choice you make becomes a signal. Every boundary you set becomes a message. When you start walking with self-respect, the world begins to mirror it back to you. Psychology calls this self-concept, and it changes everything. When your mind starts believing that you deserve more, your life quietly begins to align with that belief. In this new clarity, you stop fighting to prove your worth. You start embodying it. You stop trying to be seen and start becoming undeniable. That is the power of awakening. It turns pain into wisdom and confusion into direction. It transforms you from someone who reacts to everything into someone who moves with purpose. This is where strength begins to take root, not in loud declarations, but in quiet certainty. You no longer need to convince anyone of who you are because you finally know it yourself. The awakening is not a loud explosion. It is a calm rising from within, the sound of your spirit remembering what it was always meant to be. Pain has a strange way of shaping you. It is the teacher no one asks for, but the one that teaches the most. Every wound, every disappointment, every heartbreak carries a hidden message. Pain does not come to destroy you, it comes to rebuild you. It burns away illusions, it forces you to see what truly matters, and it introduces you to the parts of yourself you never knew existed. When you stop running from your pain, you begin to understand its purpose. Pain pushes you where comfort never will. Comfort keeps you still, but pain makes you move. Comfort makes you silent, but pain makes you speak. Comfort wants you safe, but pain wants you strong. Every time life broke you, it was not the end, it was the universe reminding you that there is more inside you than what you are showing. Psychology proves that the human mind transforms under struggle. Growth only happens when the familiar begins to fall apart. The brain rewires itself when faced with challenge. It adapts, it evolves, it learns to survive. That is what pain does. It is the signal that transformation is happening. Every strong woman you have ever admired has walked through fire. The difference is she did not stay there. She used the heat to forge herself into steel. Pain teaches emotional control, discipline, and clarity. It shows you who truly stands with you and who only stayed for convenience. It breaks your attachments and reveals your independence. The more you face it, the less it controls you. The woman who is not afraid of pain cannot be manipulated by fear. That is why pain is powerful. So when it comes, do not hide from it. Face it, breathe through it, and let it mold you. Because one day you will look back and realize that your greatest strength was born in the moments that tried to break you. Pain was never your punishment. It was your preparation. It was the fire that turned your softness into steel. There comes a moment after the pain when your mind begins to change. The same things that once broke you no longer have the same power. The same people who once made you doubt yourself can no longer reach the deeper parts of your soul. This is the shift in mindset, the quiet revolution that happens inside when you finally decide to stop living as a victim of circumstance and start becoming the creator of your own life. You begin to see that your thoughts have been shaping your world all along. The way you speak to yourself becomes the blueprint for how others treat you. If you keep saying you are not enough, the world will mirror that belief back to you. But when you start telling yourself that you are strong, that you are capable, that you are worthy of respect, your energy begins to change. You start attracting what matches your new state of mind. This shift is not easy because it requires you to let go of the familiar comfort of weakness. The mind will try to pull you back into old patterns. It will whisper you cannot change, you have tried before, it never works. But that is the old programming talking, the mindset built from years of pleasing others and fearing judgment. To rise, you must rewrite those mental patterns. You must replace doubt with discipline and fear with focus. Human psychology teaches that the mind follows repetition. What you tell yourself daily becomes your truth. If you want strength, you must think strength, you must act strength, you must live strength. Every thought becomes a step either toward your freedom or back into your cage. This shift is where the woman of steel is born. She stops waiting for motivation and becomes her own reason to rise. She no longer reacts to the world, she leads it with calm certainty. Her confidence is no longer built on praise, but on proof of who she has become. This is the mindset that separates those who dream from those who build. Once your mindset shifts, the next battle is consistency. Strength is not something you find, it is something you build day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment. Real strength does not come from motivation, it comes from discipline. Discipline is what remains when motivation fades, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one believes in you yet. This is where most people stop because discipline demands silence. It requires you to show up even when your emotions don't agree. It demands that you rise even when your mind is tired of trying. But that is how steel is formed, through pressure, through repetition, through heat. You begin to understand that success is not built in big leaps, it is built in small daily actions that most people never see. The woman of steel learns to control what she can and release what she cannot. She trains her mind to stay calm under chaos and focused under noise. She understands emotions are visitors, not rulers. This control is not about suppressing feelings, it is about guiding them. She feels everything but chooses how to respond. That choice is what separates power from weakness. Psychology shows that discipline rewires the brain for resilience. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you strengthen the pathway of confidence. Every time you delay comfort to honor your purpose, you build a mind that no longer depends on ease. Discipline becomes the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. This quiet repetition builds character. It builds peace. It builds power that no one can take away because it no longer depends on approval or applause. The woman who lives with discipline walks differently. Her calm is not born from luck, but from mastery. She does not chase balance, she creates it. She does not fear failure because she knows discipline will always bring her back. That is the foundation of real strength, the unshakable kind that grows in silence but speaks louder than any word ever could. No matter how strong you become, the real fight is never with the world, it is always with yourself. The battle within is the quiet war that happens in your mind every day between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the voice of fear whispering that you might fail, the voice of doubt asking if you are enough, and the voice of guilt trying to pull you back to the life you outgrew. This inner conflict is part of growth because transformation always demands that you leave a part of yourself behind. You will feel resistance when you start choosing yourself. The world may call you selfish, but the truth is you are finally learning to give from a place of strength, not emptiness. You will question your decisions because your old self was built on pleasing others. You will feel guilt for walking away from things that drain you because for so long you believed that love meant sacrifice. But this battle is necessary because peace does not come without confrontation. You must face your own thoughts before you can control them. Psychology explains that the human mind naturally clings to what is familiar, even when it causes pain. That is why change feels uncomfortable. The mind is wired to seek safety, not growth. But the woman of steel learns to step into discomfort because she knows that pain is temporary, but regret lasts forever. She trains her mind to see fear as a signal not to stop but to move forward with courage. This battle will not end overnight. Some days you will feel strong and unshakable. Other days you will fall back into doubt. But every time you rise, you weaken the old voice and strengthen the new one. That is how victory is won not by avoiding struggle, but by mastering it. The battle within is not your enemy, it is your training ground. It is where your real strength is born, the kind that no storm can take away. After the battle within, there comes a strange quiet. It is not peace at first, it feels empty, almost lonely. But this silence is sacred because it is where growth begins to breathe. The woman of steel learns that transformation does not always roar, sometimes it whispers. Growth does not ask for attention, it happens quietly in moments no one sees. While others are loud in their distractions, she is silent in her rebuilding. You start to understand that not every victory needs to be announced and not every lesson needs to be shared. You begin to move differently because your focus shifts from proving to improving. You no longer chase validation because you have learned the power of privacy. The most powerful changes happen when no one is watching, when it is just you, your thoughts, and your will to rise. This silence teaches patience, it teaches self-trust, it teaches you to stop rushing what needs time to grow. Human psychology shows that when the brain is quiet, it heals. In silence, your mind processes your pain, it rewires your thoughts and clears emotional noise. And that is why solitude feels uncomfortable at first, because it forces you to face yourself. But that is also why it is necessary. You cannot discover your strength in constant noise. You find it in reflection, in stillness, in moments where you finally listen to your own voice. This stage of growth will confuse people around you. They will wonder why you are distant, why you no longer react, why you seem calmer than before. What they do not understand is that silence is your new language. It is how you protect your energy and guard your peace. The woman of steel does not need to shout her strength, it is felt in her presence. Her silence speaks louder than her words because it carries the calm of someone who has faced chaos and learned to rise above it. When silence shapes you, strength begins to feel natural. You no longer apologize for it. The woman who once questioned herself now walks with quiet certainty. She no longer asks for permission to exist fully. She no longer hides her fire to make others comfortable. This is the rise of the unapologetic woman, the one who has learned that confidence is not arrogance, it is alignment. You begin to see that shrinking yourself does not serve anyone. You were never meant to be small just so others could feel tall. The more you embrace who you are, the more you give others permission to do the same. But being unapologetic also means you stop explaining your choices to people who will never understand your vision. You stop seeking approval from those who have never walked your path. You stop letting guilt control your growth. Psychology reveals that humans are conditioned to seek belonging even at the cost of authenticity. But real belonging begins when you stop performing and start living as your true self. The unapologetic woman does not rebel to prove something, she simply returns to who she was before the world told her who to be. Her strength is not loud, it is grounded. Her confidence is not to impress, it is to express. You will notice how your nature changes. You speak less but with purpose. You smile not to please, but because you are at peace. You no longer chase love, you attract it naturally through the calm power you carry. Some will admire this transformation, others will resist it. But the woman of steel does not bend for acceptance. She stands firm knowing that the right people will recognize her value without explanation. Being unapologetic is freedom. It is choosing yourself without guilt. It is walking away from anything that asks you to shrink. It is standing tall in your truth even when your voice shakes. Because the woman who no longer apologizes for her power has finally understood what it means to be truly alive. True strength is not about being emotionless, it is about mastering your emotions so they no longer control you. The woman of steel understands that power is not found in reacting but in responding. She knows that calmness is not weakness, it is wisdom. Emotional intelligence becomes her armor not because it hides her feelings, but because it helps her direct them with purpose. You start to realize that your emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. Anger shows you where boundaries were crossed. Sadness reveals where healing is needed. Fear exposes the places where faith must grow. Instead of fighting these emotions, you begin to listen to them. You no longer let them drive your actions, you use them as tools to understand yourself better. This awareness turns chaos into clarity and pain into guidance. Psychology teaches that emotional control increases resilience. When you learn to pause before reacting, your brain shifts from impulse to intelligence. You no longer hand power to the people who try to provoke you. You conserve your energy for what truly matters. The woman who masters her emotions becomes unpredictable because no one can shake a person who is centered within herself. Emotional intelligence allows you to see through people. You start recognizing intentions behind words and energy behind actions. You begin to understand that not every argument deserves your voice and not every insult deserves your attention. You rise above the noise because you know peace is more valuable than being right. This inner calm becomes your greatest weapon. It keeps you grounded when others lose control and focused when everything around you feels uncertain. The woman of steel does not need to shout to be heard. Her presence speaks for her. Her composure becomes her language. Her patience becomes her strength. And through emotional intelligence, she learns that power is not about winning battles. It is about knowing which ones are not worth fighting at all. Once emotional control becomes your foundation, confidence starts to rise naturally. It is no longer the fragile kind that depends on compliments or attention. It grows from within quietly and powerfully. You begin to carry yourself differently because your confidence is not built on how others see you, but on how deeply you trust yourself. The woman of steel understands that true confidence is not loud, it is steady. It is the quiet knowing that no matter what happens, she will handle it. You stop overthinking every decision because you have learned to trust your own judgment. You stop comparing your path to others because you finally understand that your timing is your power. You begin to feel grounded in who you are. This kind of confidence cannot be faked because it is built through experience, through facing pain and rising again. It is the result of keeping promises to yourself even when it was hard. Psychology says that confidence is a feedback loop. The more you take action, the more capable you feel, and the more capable you feel, the more action you take. Every small victory builds evidence that you can rely on yourself. That evidence becomes unshakable faith. This is how confidence grows, not from praise, but from proof. You no longer seek validation because you have become your own source of it. You celebrate your wins in silence and correct your mistakes without shame. You understand that failure does not define you, it refines you. Each challenge becomes a test that proves your strength, and each success becomes a reminder of how far you have come. Confidence is not arrogance, it is grace under pressure. It is walking into a room without needing to be the loudest voice because your energy speaks for you. The woman of steel does not need to convince anyone of her worth, she embodies it. Her presence commands respect not through force but through quiet certainty. This is the rise of confidence, the stage where your power begins to shine effortlessly. When confidence rises, boundaries become natural. You no longer feel guilty for saying no because you understand that every yes cost. The woman of steel knows that her time, energy, and peace are sacred resources, not things to be wasted pleasing others. Setting boundaries is not about building walls, it's about building respect. It's about teaching the world how to treat you by showing how you treat yourself. Before transformation, you might have tolerated behavior that drained your spirit, friends who took advantage, relationships that demanded too much, or environments that disrespected your value. But now you begin to see clearly. You realize that not everyone deserves access to you. Some people love the version of you that bends, but they will disappear when you begin to stand tall. And that's okay. Strength naturally filters your circle. Boundaries are an act of love, not rejection. They protect your energy so you can give your best to what truly matters. Without them, your confidence fades, your emotions scatter, and your peace erodes. But with them, you regain control of your life. You decide who enters your space and how long they stay. You stop trying to fix people who are not willing to change. You stop sacrificing your happiness to maintain false harmony. A strong woman understands boundaries are not selfish, they are essential. They separate what strengthens you from what weakens you. They remind you that saying no to chaos is saying yes to growth. Every boundary you set builds another layer of steel around your spirit, firm but flexible, strong but compassionate. Soon, you notice a shift. You attract people who respect your limits because they see how seriously you respect them yourself. You feel lighter because your life is no longer filled with noise or guilt. The peace you once searched for outside now lives within you, guarded by the invisible walls of your own strength. This is the quiet power of boundaries, the point where self-respect becomes your greatest weapon. This strength is not just found in muscles or words, it lives in the silence between reactions. The woman of steel learns that emotional control is her greatest form of power. She no longer allows every storm to pull her in. She doesn't fight every battle, and she doesn't explain herself to everyone. Instead, she masters the art of calm because real control is not about suppressing emotions, it's about directing them with purpose. In the past, every insult may have felt like a wound, every disappointment like a collapse. But now, you start to see that emotions are signals, not commands. Anger shows where boundaries were crossed. Sadness shows where something meaningful was lost. Fear shows where courage is needed next. When you understand this, you stop letting emotions drive your actions. You let them inform your decisions. A woman of steel doesn't seek revenge when wronged. She withdraws her energy, focuses on growth, and lets time reveal what truth cannot hide. She no longer crumbles under pressure because she knows that calmness is her advantage in a world addicted to reaction. People who cannot control their emotions are easily controlled by others, but she is no longer one of them. You begin to realize that power doesn't come from being loud or dominant, it comes from presence. When you can stand in chaos and still breathe evenly, when you can be provoked and still choose grace, when you can feel deeply yet respond wisely, that is mastery. Emotional control doesn't make you cold, it makes you precise. It allows you to channel passion into purpose, pain into progress, and conflict into clarity. This is the transformation that separates those who merely survive from those who rise. You stop being a prisoner of your feelings and become the architect of your peace. Every calm decision, every measured response, every quiet breath builds the steel within you, unbreakable, steady, and unshaken by the noise of the world. When a woman finally learns to control her emotions, something extraordinary happens. She becomes untouchable. The same storms that once broke her now pass through her without shaking her core. She no longer looks for peace outside of herself because she has built it within. Every test she faced, every heartbreak she endured, every challenge she survived has forged her into something greater than she ever imagined. Becoming unbreakable doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means no matter what comes, you do not collapse. You may bend, but you never break. Because now, your strength isn't borrowed from validation, approval, or comfort. It's born from your own endurance. You have walked through the fire, and instead of being burned, you became the flame. You begin to understand that being unbreakable is not about never feeling pain. It's about rising each time pain visits. The world will still test you, people will still disappoint you, and failures will still appear on your path. But your response is different now. Instead of saying, "Why me?" you whisper, "Try me." Because you've learned that every struggle is not punishment, it's preparation. There is a stillness inside the woman of steel. She moves with quiet confidence, speaks with conviction, and stands with grace. She doesn't chase things anymore. She attracts them through her energy, her discipline, and her self-respect. Her boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks that only open to peace. This is the transformation you were meant for, from soft to strong, from uncertain to unstoppable. From pleasing others to protecting your peace. You are no longer defined by what you've lost, you are built by what you've survived. The woman of steel is not born in comfort. She is forged in resistance, shaped by pain, and polished by perseverance. And when you finally become her, you don't need to prove your worth to the world. The world will see your strength in your silence.